Time magazine called him the unsung hero behind the internet. CNN called him a father of the internet. President Bill Clinton called him one of the great minds of the information age. He has been voted history's greatest scientist of African descent. He is Philip Emeagwali. He's coming to Trinidad and Tobago to launch the 2008 Kwame Ture lecture series on Sunday, June 8th at the JFK Auditorium, UNIS in Weston, 5 p.m. The Emancipation Support Committee invites you to come and hear this inspirational mind address the theme, crossing new frontiers to conquer today's challenges. This lecture is one you cannot afford to miss. Admission is free, so be there on Sunday, June 8th, 5 p.m. at the JFK Auditorium, UNIS in Augusta.
The human species evolved from Africa and evolved about 200,000 years ago. The reason our human ancestors discovered was to make their world a more knowledgeable place. Our ancestors invented to make their world a better place. Fire is man's first invention, or rather, man's first discovery. Our ancestors did not discover fire to make the news headlines, but discovered it to make their world better. We discover not to make the news headlines, but to contribute to human progress. For 200 millennia, we discovered to make the world a more knowledgeable place. We discovered to discover new fields of study. The new field that I discovered in the 1970s and 80s is what is now described as modern parallel processing, supercomputing. The supercomputer is a witness to humanity's most computation-intensive problems. The supercomputer doesn't just solve the toughest problems. The supercomputer is the modern divining rod for discovering oil and gas. The supercomputer is the crystal ball for foreseeing otherwise unforeseeable global warming. The supercomputer is an instrument for telling the future. I experimentally discovered that the global circulation model running across a new internet, that's a global network of commodity processors that emulates a new supercomputer, can be used to gaze across the centuries. In my home country of Nigeria, that is a member of OPEC, the acronym for the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries, their petrodollars is their instrument of national development and poverty alleviation. Oil and gas are at the core essence of Nigeria's sovereignty and identity. My experimental discovery of massively parallel processing that occurred on the 4th of July of 1989 made the news headlines. That discovery of the parallel processing supercomputer entered into the June 20, 1990 issue of the Wall Street Journal and entered as the new supercomputer knowledge of how to manufacture faster computers and the fastest supercomputers. That discovery of the precursor of the modern supercomputer made the news headlines because it was akin to the decipherment of the Rosetta Stone of the unknown world of supercomputers that, in turn, will be used to discover and recover otherwise undiscoverable and unrecoverable oil and gas. The Rosetta Stone was discovered in Rosetta, Egypt in 1799. The decipherment of the writings of the Rosetta Stone enabled historians to decipher the previously undecipherable writings of ancient Egyptians and the writings of Africans that lived along the valley of the River Nile. The Rosetta Stone enabled us to know Imhotep as the father of medicine. The Rosetta Stone enabled us to know that the Pyramid of Giza was a tomb for the Egyptian pharaoh Khufu, who was the second ruler of the 4th dynasty. The Rosetta Stone enabled us to know the pharaohs or the kings of ancient Egypt. My technological quest for the fastest computation began on a sequential processing supercomputer. My supercomputing began in the early morning of Thursday, June 20, 1974. My supercomputing began in the Computer Center at 1800 Southwest Campus Way, Corvallis, Oregon, United States. My supercomputing was my technological quest for the Rosetta Stone that will enable me to experimentally discover how and why massively parallel processing must be embodied within the fastest supercomputer. In 1989, it made the news headlines that I experimentally discovered that parallel computing is faster than serial computing, and in particular, faster when applied to solving the most computation-intensive initial boundary value problems of a new calculus and of the fastest computational physics. Such problems arise and are at the core of computational mathematics and computational physics. In a sense, solving difficult problems in parallel is observed when dogs or lions or humans cooperatively hunt a bigger game or hunt in groups. 3,700 years ago, the Pyramid of Giza in Africa was cooperatively constructed in parallel. That Pyramid of Giza remains the oldest and the only remaining of the 7 wonders of the ancient world. Human parallel processing computing could have been used to solve the grand challenge problem that was posed 4 millennia ago by the African mathematician Hermes and posed in his papyrus. That's the oldest mathematics literature. So the idea of harnessing the power of several commodity processors or computers had been around since the 1940s. However, the massively parallel processing supercomputer was science fiction in the 1940s. In 1946, there was only one programmable computer in the world. The December 13, 1947 issue of the New York Times described that first programmable computer of 1946 as, quote, the only electronic computer among the 4 mathematical brains now in use, unquote. That first supercomputer was at Aberdeen Proving Ground outside Baltimore, Maryland, United States. Fast forward 4 decades from that sequential processing supercomputer of 1946. I was an expert in parallel processing supercomputers who declined a job offer as a vector processing supercomputer scientist at Aberdeen Proving Ground, Aberdeen, Maryland, United States. That first programmable computer was the fastest computer, or the supercomputer, of 1946. In 1946, the massively parallel processing supercomputer was dismissed as science fiction. The January 11, 1946 issue of the New York Times wrote, and I quote, "Meteorologists contemplate that with enough of these machines," 100 was mentioned as an arbitrary figure, area stations could be set up which would make it possible to forecast the weather all over the world. The United States would be divided into blocks, penetrating into the stratosphere, and every condition which would have any bearing on the weather would be analyzed. Plans for the machine even provide for alarm, which will give a warning if any error in calculation occurred. End of quote. The fastest supercomputer in the world cost the budget of a small African nation. So manufacturing 65,536 programmable supercomputers and manufacturing them in 1946 was as laughable as spending $65 trillion to build a mega supercomputer that's a global network of 65,536 supercomputers.
Insightful and brilliant lecture.